This week on the Notorious Scoundrels podcast.
That even after people pointed out he didn't put them in his article, he still hasn't updated his article to include them. So just...
This is true. Old rank handicap, new rank handicap.
Wow.
Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a podcast focused on tactics and competitive play for Star Wars Legion. Hosted by Kyle Dornbos, Michael Barry, and David Zelenka, with Jay Shalansky, the man behind the glass.
Hello and welcome back to Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle and I'm joined by David and Jay this week. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great, man. Points changes. They happened. The world is not as we once knew. No longer will snipers dominate the galaxy, or will they?
Well, they're still pretty good.
Yeah, they're still pretty good. 75-point rotaries are pretty good too.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are pretty good. How about you, Jay? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. Glad to be on and joining up on the Scoundrels again this week. This will be fun.
Yeah, Mike is off in the woods somewhere, making fire with sticks or something.
We
I don't know.
We sent him on a leadership retreat for the 5th Troopers.
a vision quest, life after snipers.
Yeah, we wanted him to be a better manager for the 5th Troopers, so we...
Yeah, he's eating crickets and catching fish and stuff. So I don't know. I'm sure he's enjoying himself wherever he is. But we got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to hit some news. The London GT was this weekend, and it was officially the last tournament with the old points. So we'll briefly talk about that. In Legion 101, we're going to talk about System 1 and System 2 thinking. And we'll talk about what those terms mean and how they apply to Legion. And then we're going to probably spend 85% of this episode talking about the points rebalance. We had Alex.
Half the audience's eyes just glazed over because they heard System 1 and System 2 thinking.
Yeah, well, they just had a System 1 response.
Exactly. So stay tuned. Use your System 2 and stay tuned.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of an academic section, but I think it will be useful and applicable to Legion. So
extremely.
All right, let's do some housekeeping real quick. Jay, you want to do Patreon and Mats?
Yeah, so for most of you out there that know, we had a Patreon page up. If you're interested in supporting what we do and getting us to the next level of providing more, go check it out. A lot of our Patreon members this month, so in October, they'll be getting a t-shirt in the mail, the Debacle t-shirt. So that's fun for the certain level of Patreon members, and then everyone's going to be getting, actually, I don't mind talking about it. There, for this quarter's giveaway for being a Patreon supporter is we're going to actually we custom built a list for our Patreon members with a little story behind the list, and you'll get the list, all art cards for the list, and then the story behind it. And so those are going to be going out to our Patreon members in October, which is super exciting. So, if you want to help support the 5th Trooper and help us achieve all of our goals, which is providing content for you, get on over to the Patreon page. And actually at the top level of the Patreon every year, for a year's worth of Patreon support, you actually get one of our mats, which segues me into the second section here. We actually launched our next wave of mats. Pre-sale kind of tease is out now, and then later this week we'll actually have pre-sales up. And so we have a bunch of new designs plus something special with the sidebars. Our old mats sidebars were on the mat. We actually pulled those off in their own neoprene mats. They're 6" by 6 feet, and they're just ready to go and be on the side of your mat, so that no matter what mat you have, you'll always be able to easily section it off for Legion instead of using painter's tape and the other various ways that we section off mats now. we'll be good to go with those sidebars. So check out thefifthtrooper.com and you'll see game mats up there, and you can kind of get a preview now, and then later on they're going to go into pre-sales. And this kind of like, so we did this big vote whether people wanted to do pre-sales or Kickstarter, and everyone kind of said they didn't care. So I'm treating this like a Kickstarter where, we're gonna need to get to a certain level before we do sales, but I'm sure we'll get there. So, later this week, look out for the pre-sales.
Awesome.
Well, that's crazy cool.
Can you talk real quick about like the themes, like what types of mats we're looking at this time?
Yeah, so this time around, we've got five new mats. We have a desert, land / planet, or anything that doesn't infringe on IP. We have we have grasslands.
The non-IP infringing system.
Yes. We have grasslands. You may have seen something in one of the prequel movies similar. We have a beach, with some water, and a tropical beach, which was in one of these movies. I don't know which one. I can't remember.
Perhaps a shore.
Yeah. A shoreline of sorts.
Hey, there's lots of it's a big galaxy. There's lots of shorelines,
Yeah, sure. There's lots of water,
and no particular galaxy either. There's lots of galaxies with shorelines. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, we have industrial shipbuilding yard that maybe a certain scoundrel visited or was born or lived on, and then we have kind of like a classic city map that would be reminiscent of somewhere where a princess who had twins lived at one point. So.
Oh, okay. Copper roofs and all.
But yeah, no. So the real neat thing about this time around for everyone listening is, and you can tell your friends out there, dear listeners, is that this isn't just for Star Wars Legion. So the way we tried to design the mats this time is they fit in the Star Wars galaxy for sure. But you could use them for 40K or Bolt Action or Infinity or any other tabletop war game that you may play with your friends or your friends may play. So, if anybody's interested in just seeing different types of mats than maybe they've seen before and any game that you may play, check them out. It may be worth something to you.
Yeah, what we're talking about is value, right? We're talking about, it's not just an investment you make for Legion, it's an investment you make for any game system you choose to play.
Yeah, and and I mean, we did the mats, the mud mat and the crate mat, which I loved doing, and I think the response was really good on those. But I think we may have tied ourselves down a little bit with putting the sidebars. Even though the sidebars may have been a good idea, we kind of limited by putting them directly on the mat. So this time around, we thought it would be a good idea. Like I said, you can get a set. They come in a set of two, for one table of sidebars that basically have an area for 12 activations worth of cards, and then a little area to hold your dice or your tokens, and then it basically measures off 6 inches. The neat thing that we incorporated not only on the sidebars but also on the mats have hidden measurements that are every range 3 down the middle of the mat, and then also the sidebars too as well. They have markers at range, every range 3 from starting from the left to the right or the right to the left.
No, that's just genius, because not only does it speed up deployment, it also, or setup and deployment, it also you can also establish ranges and avoid the pitfalls of using a bumper or some sort of marker that is not precision cut. That's just going to be really helpful, I think, and I'm looking forward to using them myself.
Yeah, and essentially it's not like an obnoxious X or anything in the middle of the mat. It's like a bush or a rock or some other unobtrusive marking that, like, you'll know that it's in the middle of the mat, but it's not going to make the mat look odd or out of place.
Yeah, and it's just kind of, I think once you see them, like you as a mat owner will always see them, but you'll, it's part of the design. So
Yeah.
I hope that people enjoy that, and I hope that it looks okay for everybody.
Awesome.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing them in, I don't know how to say it, in person in the neoprene. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too. So I got the prototypes for all of them, and they all, not to toot our own horn here, but they all turned out really nice printed. So I was really happy actually with how they turned out printed. So I'm excited for everybody to see them and to get involved and get some. I think it'll be good.
Yeah.
We think you're gonna love them. Yeah.
So let's talk real quick about Invader League. Invader League signups were we're actually recording this on Sunday. They were today. By the time
went.
Yeah. by the time
Practically.
you hear this podcast, there will probably be it will probably be full. I think as of recording time, they had already blown past the original 96 player size, and LJ extended it to 144, and then I think it's already at 136.
Holy moly.
So yeah, if you're hearing this podcast and you want to sign up for Invader League, you're probably just going to get waitlisted.
Yeah, as soon as I was coming back home from church, and I looked at my phone and I checked the Discord, and I was absolutely floored. I'm like, oh, guess I better register now before I lose my spot.
I almost forgot about it. Yeah, I was pretty close to getting waitlisted myself.
Yeah, the champ is gonna get waitlisted. you got to defend your title, man. You got a title defense to make.
Yeah, we'll see. I might mess around a little more this time.
Are you going to do your 10 games of Republic or 10 games of Separatists and then win the whole league again?
Just making my first 10 games of something.
Exactly.
Well, I think I'd have to do Republic to do that.
Yeah, for those of you that recall, Kyle played Empire and Invader 3, and basically, was not new to Legion certainly, but pretty new to the faction in general, and just like swept the whole league. Like, were you undefeated?
Yeah, it was.
No, you had like one defeat. It was 10 games, no defeats. Wow.
Correct. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and I didn't do any practice, so those were my first 10 Empire games.
Holy moly.
But I don't think I'm going to do that again this time. But I'm going to mess. I mean, we're in a whole new world here with the points changes, so I'm going to mess around with some new stuff. It might be a little janky. We'll see.
a new, fantastic, certain point of view, as the song clearly says.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, so just to talk real quick, as far as like what's going to be legal in Invader League, it's essentially everything that's been spoiled. So
there's even murmurings that R2 is coming as well.
Yeah, because we did get an R2 preview this week. So yeah, it's all 4 factions. It's to include things like the tanks to the extent that we know stuff about them, and so yeah, it's going to be crazy. It's the points for balance on top of 2 new factions and a bunch of new units and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to see, and it's also really interesting because in round robin, which is the first stage, which is like like in a baseball or football division where you play all your the other people in your division. You can switch your list you cannot switch your faction. You have to keep the whole faction or one faction for the whole tournament, but you can switch your list up every time.
Yeah, so your faction locked.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of crazy experimentation in round robin phase. It's going to be really exciting. So
yeah, I'm down for that. Like now I don't know if has LJ said that they're going to do it like last time where they published the map pool and then assigned pairings based on which maps are there, and then let you know what your pairings and maps were in advance of your game, so you can study up.
I don't think he's specifically said that, but I don't see why it would be any different. So that's what I would expect, unless we hear otherwise.
Yeah, this is one of the big differences between Legion Online and Legion in person, is that in-person tournaments the maps are essentially random because you don't really know what the terrain's going to be. But online, because map development takes a substantial amount of time, and we have the ability to balance the terrain through iterative testing. There are fewer overall sets of terrain and slightly less randomness. And so list construction is affected by that mildly. You see it in for example, in Yavin-based Team League, there were almost no tanks on a certain map because people knew that this map existed and they never wanted to play tanks on it. So that's kind of that effect will occur in Invader League depending on what the final output of the map creators looks like.
Yeah. It's an interesting element of Invader League for sure. One of the great things about Invader League is that since it is on TTS, you can essentially watch the Twitch streams, and it's what, as far as like mechanics and what's happening in the game is concerned, it's one of the best ways to watch a Legion game because the commentators can literally like zoom in on the action and get line of sight down on the table and everything. So
yeah, they can make determinations and try to estimate what the next course of action is right along with you, and that's honestly one of the best ways to improve. I forget who it was, but there's a lot of. I mean, in athletics, right? You don't just practice; you also look at videotape, and this is similar to looking at videotape, is just seeing how certain units and lists are played, and figuring out what works and what doesn't. So that definitely contributes to your development as a player, to tune into some of these streams, to look at the commentary, look at the list building, see what's working, see what's not working, figure out what you do, steal ideas because no one's strategies are copyrighted. That's just how part of the game works. And you always learn a thing or two when you tune into one of these streams.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be super fun. The actual gameplay starts in October sometime, so stay tuned. We're going to be talking about it a lot, I'm sure, because we're all playing, including you this time, Jay.
Yeah, the last few I sat out just because I was like, I don't know if I have time for this, but I decided that this season I'm gonna try, and I've already been playing with some list ideas, and I'm very excited to be part of it. So
it's a great way to just like mess around with new lists.
I'm looking forward to Super Luke.
Yeah,
the real Muad'Dib, the real Kwisatz Haderach, to borrow a phrase.
The Kwisatz Haderach.
He is, man. He's the super being, or the super unit.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. It's yeah. I'm looking forward to that too. I have not actually decided what faction I'm playing yet. So
I think I joked at Gen Con that I was playing 800 points of Luke, but really I was playing Luke and Leia and her gun line.
Yeah.
Now we really can play 800 points of Luke because now we have 6 command cards for him.
Yeah.
So it's 800 points of Luke in the most literal sense.
Yeah, right. And some random other rebel schmoes thrown in there for
yeah.
Somebody's got to grab
it's still
the boxes,
pretty fluffy. Right. Someone's got to grab the boxes around here.
Yeah. It's interesting. We'll talk about Operative Luke in another episode, but he plays a lot like Palpatine, and that like in order to win, he's got to carry the game on his back, but he's also extremely capable of doing that. So
he's got to hit the home runs.
Yep. But
we're used to that as Rebel players.
Well, and luckily he's even more of a home run hitter than Commander Luke is. So.
Oh heck yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll save Operative Luke and Vader for another episode. Obviously, Alex and Luke Eddy talked about them quite a bit on last episode, which if you haven't caught that, you should. Because they also talked extensively about the points rebalance, and certainly they have much more interesting things to say about it than we do as just pundits. But we're gonna give our own views on it today. If you want to hear those. Listen to that episode if you haven't, but you guys want to launch into this one?
Welcome to In the News.
Just some quick bits of news. And there was a post on Facebook that indicated that maybe the core set is going to be released in Q4. I don't know if you guys saw this or not.
Yeah. It was a Matt Holland post, wasn't it? Right, Matt Holland being the front man, the spokesperson, as it were, for FFG's customer relations through Facebook.
Yeah, and he's been doing a great job like communicating with the community. Essentially what he said is we haven't communicated about a delay because there hasn't technically been one. There really hasn't been one. We said Q3 and it's still Q3 as LJ pointed out. That said, it does now look like it'll be Q4, although just about as early in Q4 as possible. I do apologize for that, but as soon as that date is firmed up, I'll make sure we let you know. So it sounds like from that, it's going to be like early October. That's what I get from that.
Not to be negative Nancy, and no offense to Matt, but I got a feeling I mean, just my feeling is it sounds like from a business speak perspective that maybe something outside of their control happened. It could have been, at the docks or coming into the US or, with distributors. There could have been something else going on there. So the fact that they're being the fact that number one, he's saying Q4 is worrisome. And early Q4 is all the way up till the first week in November in business lingo. So just for everybody out there.
Yeah. I don't want to say like first week of October and have people expect that. It's also not clear that it's going to be Q4. I think he was trying to communicate that also, but it's possible that it will be. So I guess we'll see.
I'll just I'll mention here, it's definitely a very reasonable conclusion, Jay, that you make about there probably being something beyond their control that's affecting everything. Mm-hmm. Specifically, I'm remembering, and I'm going to sound like Evan here a little bit, not that that's a bad thing, of X-Wing when they had orange acrylic range templates. Literally, they had trouble finding any orange acrylic anywhere. And that's why the templates were two different colors. So it was like a worldwide shortage practically of this orange acrylic material, apparently. So
yeah,
I don't know. Now, obviously, I probably am missing numerous details, but it would not surprise me if it was something on that order that's causing the issue.
Yeah,
and I mean, we've talked about this before on my podcast, and I wrote a blog about it before. But I think there's been a bunch of changes in how our country, the United States, receives things, and so there could be a potential there where it's some sort of port issue or dock or boat or shipment. I got a feeling it's around those lines if I had to guess.
Yeah, but bottom line is I think there was a lot of rumors that it would be the 20th, which is at this point 5 days from now. Obviously that's not going to be it, but it's funny.
Yeah,
so this is obviously the most significant release we've had since the game started, but there's also like we've kind of been inundated with new content recently. Like there's so many other things to play with. I'm like, man, I don't even have my Shore Troopers primed yet. Like I'm okay with October. I don't have time to paint droids right now.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I haven't even taken my shores out of the boxes yet.
Yeah, it's like we got so many toys already. I'm like, all right, that's fine. My airbrush has other things to do right now anyway.
I've been busy painting veterans and tauntauns, and my Gen Con clones are sitting idle.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you guys this real quick? So, most of us, I think you guys included, have kind of just been keeping up with both factions. And, I know, Kyle, you weren't at first, but now you're getting back into, full up and on your empire. Do you guys see yourselves buying in with the new factions right away, or just a core set and see where you want to go and then think about what you're going to buy after that? Or how do you guys see yourselves purchasing moving forward?
I'm hoping to just get a bunch of spending out of the way early and just jumpstart my clone army with like 2 cores and like a half of a core somehow, or like 2 cores and then trade 1/2 of the second core for the another half of the clone core. So then I'll have the maximum number of bark speeders. I'll have 6 phase 1 units, and I'll have a bunch of Obi-Wans to play with as I see fit. And then like I think I could manage 1 to 2 expansions a month if that's how the pace keeps up.
Yeah,
that's my plan.
Yeah, I'm gonna do something similar with droids. I definitely plan on at some point once they get some more than core set unit variety, probably maining. I guess we'll see how things shake out, but maining separatists just because they fit my playstyle so closely.
Sort of cheap horde plus heroes.
Well, I was thinking more of like having perfect control of everything.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah,
you'll have perfect control over your cheap horde.
right, exactly. Yeah, if you guys obviously know a lot about my style, but I like control. So Separatists definitely fit that. So I'm gonna definitely be buying into them pretty heavily. I've already got I've got 1.5 cores and Dooku on pre-order. So
Nice.
but it's going to be a while, I think, before they get enough unit variety to be competitive with Rebels and Empire. But we'll see. They're also kind of like naturally. We've talked about this briefly on other podcasts, and I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole. But I do think Separatists are kind of naturally like well positioned against the current meta. And that's obviously we'll talk about snipers in a bit, but they don't really care about snipers. They don't really care about like suppressive Empire gun lines because they don't care about suppression.
They don't even really care about tauntauns either.
I wouldn't go that far.
For the most part, that displacement suppression. No.
Well, they don't care about
not
the
even when they
displacement.
ignore the displacement.
They don't care
suppression
about the
and then,
displacement suppression, but we'll talk about comms jammers and the rebalance. I'm already shortening it.
How could I forget?
Yeah. So they very much care about tauntauns, but not for the same reasons that everybody else cares about tauntauns.
Right, which is getting their face caved in by a horns of claws tenacity attack.
Right. Which also happens to them, but they rely a lot on coordinate, which is a thing that tauntauns can now mess with. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I think both Clone Wars factions are going to need maybe into at least until the tank release to field some. It's not that like the units they have aren't competitive, it's just that they're predictable. Like I was thinking about going into Invader League with Separatists, and I'm like, in round robin you can change your list based on every opponent, and I'm like, why wouldn't everybody just run flamers against me? So we'll see. If you know that
a reasonable suggestion,
right? Like if you know that you're facing,
perhaps I will adopt it.
Yeah, like if you're in Invader League and you're facing a Separatist opponent, you should probably run some kind of flamers.
If you're running triple tauntauns, just swap one tauntaun for a comms jamming flamer instead.
Yeah, I mean comms jammer tauntauns are going to be pretty nasty too. But the point is like,
I mean that's an easy swap.
The point is that the builds are at the moment predictable, so that you can kind of tailor against them to counter them at the moment.
Well, and it's interesting, the reason I was asking, because I thought, and you guys kind of both answered it in a way that leads to my point, is that from what I've been hearing, even myself and Evan, and it sounds like you guys as well, like we're like with the first release of the original two two factions, I felt like I didn't know which one I wanted to play. Like I leaned towards Empire, but I was always like, nah, I could play Rebels. And then I started playing Flyboys and I really enjoyed that. Like right now, it seems like most people have just a definite one that they want to play. Like everyone seems like they're either clones or they're separatists, and they're not. And everyone's kind of said the same thing, where they're like, yeah, maybe I'll get a core set, but I'm really going to just focus on building up this one faction because that's the one I want to play. And so I just thought it was interesting that you guys are the same way. And so it'll be cool to see kind of how that plays out into the competitive scene as well.
Well, just to clarify, I'm doing it purely for fluff reasons. Well, not purely for fluff reasons, like mostly for fluff reasons. Let's say 95% fluff, 5% 3-up saves. And maybe 1% token sharing for 101%.
Yeah, and I'm doing it for both playstyle reasons and then also somewhat fluff reasons. I chose Rebels out of the gate for Civil War. They're the good guys in the Civil War, and Separatists are the bad guys in theory in Clone Wars. So thought I would switch it up.
Yeah, that's cool because like I'm light side only, and you're like, nah, opposites attract. Let me go play Separatist too.
Yeah, I wanna put some Sith on the table. Yeah, and now I can do that with Dooku, and obviously Grievous is his own kind of different evil blender. I've been watching the Clone Wars TV show. I think it's he's such a stereotypical villain. Like he's like always like clenches his fists and talks with his hands a lot when he's just giving like mundane orders. I think I'm going to do that in my games. I'm going to just be like, and I will activate this unit as I'm clenching my fist. Because what's
you
the
gotta,
point
you
of?
got to do the accent.
Yeah, I got to work on my Grievous accent. But like, what's the point of putting
Yeah.
like the most cliche, obnoxious cartoon villain on the table without doing something like that? So
Yeah.
So,
Hey man, at least you're not heavy breathing through your Vader games.
yeah, that's true.
yeah. So my whole reason is insane as well. So my whole reason I'm going to do droids, and it's all because back when the tank and the land speeder came out, they had transport, and all I could think about before we even knew Clone Wars was coming out was like, oh my god, they're going to come out with the transport for the droids. We're going to be able to transport droids. Like I just like was freaking out about that. So that's the only reason why I'm picking droids, is because I'm just hoping that someday we get a droid transport and I can just wheel this monstrosity across the battlefield and drop droids off.
What if it like spat out droids like mid game,
Yeah.
like summoning?
That'd be great. Like
Oh, that'd
whatever
be so
happens,
cool.
I'm on board. That's why I want droids. And I'm an old orcs and goblin player from Warhammer Fantasy, so they just make sense for that too. So
Yep, there you go. Yeah,
You know, I'm like you too, Jay. I love the LAT gunship, the LAAT from the Clone Wars movies.
yeah.
And but I keep getting repeatedly told that it's too big to put on the table, and I'm like, well, the airspeeder is not to scale, so just let your heart sing and hope for the best.
Yeah, well, and I mean the way the game's going, and all the extra stuff they're doing with like the drop pod and the bunker, who knows what's in store. Like I mean really, I don't think there's anything that isn't on the table at this point in
Yeah.
one way or another.
The game needs more T47 style units, more flyers.
Agreed. They could do those. Evan and I have always wanted those. I forget from Rogue One that we're flying on Scarif.
The Striker,
Yeah,
or the Reaper.
the Striker, I think, where it just has like their in atmosphere ships. So those, they're like air speeders, right? So
The Striker.
mhm.
Yeah, those could come out for the Empire eventually. But yeah, anyways.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's a little sad that it's delayed at least past this Friday, which was the original speculated date. But we'll see. It sounds like it's still going to be relatively soon. So don't take our word for that. We are not we are not FFG. We don't represent them. We're just trying to read between the tea leaves from Facebook posts. And yes, I know that I mixed a
Talk about
euphemism
mixing metaphors.
Yeah. Look, tomato, potato. It's whatever. I'm
trying to parse all
that. Yeah. I'm like Biff from Back to the Future. So let's talk about the London GT real quick.
Speaking of Back to the Future, because this thing used the old points values.
Yeah, so that was this past weekend. Is the last official tournament with the old points values. The winner was Finn. Finn, I'm sorry, I don't actually know what your last name is, but Finn is your Discord handle, so that's what we're going to call you.
I'm gonna take a stab at it. P. Müller. That's how it goes. So
Okay.
Finn, you can tell me if I did a horrible job on the Discord if and when you listen to this episode.
There you go. So yeah, Finn was the winner. He won with a fairly traditional Krennic Bosk list. And except with shore troopers, because they're shore troopers, and they're awesome. And then he, the second place guy who he defeated in the final was Johannes, who played Luke Sabine. So it was another Luke Sabine. Nova was there were 2 Luke Sabines in the top 4, so still a strong list, people. Lots of people are flocking to Tauntauns, but Luke Sabine's still good. He had David, you want to talk about some briefly interesting tech that he had in this list? The relay uplink thing?
Yes, I do. I do. Yes, the relay uplink thing. So those of you who have been listening to us, we've talked about comm relay on shore troopers and mortars, specifically on the mortar, because you're basically using the extra order that coordinate gives you to generate an order on someone else, someone a little bit more useful than, say, the mortar, since the mortar's best use is not always in fire support of a different unit. In this case, Luke and Sabine has problems with keeping tokens on both of their big units, that is Luke and Sabine. But if you have a veteran unit with an uplink, you can use the relay on the Mark II blaster to give a token from the vet's coordinate to one of the heroes, whether that's Luke or Sabine, depending on whose command card is being played. So it's a brilliant little piece of tech that I think really solves the problem that Luke Sabine has with not taking any sort of command upgrade like improvised orders. It's just a brilliant use of it, and it only costs you about 5 more points. And that's definitely 5 points well spent. I'll just say that much to keep your Luke from going early or your Sabine from going early.
Well, and you can even use it to win priority. Like if you've got, Luke needs to go first, but you've already played Son of Skywalker. You can play explosions and then use uplink relay to give an order to Luke and have him go on a 1-pip.
Right, they work back and forth with each other on the 1-pip turns, which is even crazier to think about.
Yeah, it's so I've been messing around theory crafting a little bit with a operative Vader Palpatine list. And you can do something like that if you put battle meditation on Palpatine. You can essentially use like give into your anger to give an order to Vader.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's you can do a similar trick with this Luke Sabine relay thing. And you can also do this, by the way, with almost any unit and separatists, which we'll talk about at some point in a lengthy coordinate separatist article. But like if you're running, for example, Dooku and Grievous in one list, if you put uplinks or at least one uplink on your B1s, you can use Dooku's cards to win priority for Grievous and vice versa.
Yeah, so just to like walk people through the flow chart here. So let's say you have Sabine and Luke and a unit of veterans with their uplink and a Mark II. So you play explosions, right? And then you hit the uplink on the vets. Vets coordinate to the Mark II that has a comm relay that then passes that order to Luke at range 1 to 2. And so you end up with orders on Sabine, the veterans, and Luke.
Yep.
All on the 1-pip turn.
Yep.
So it's pretty flawless if you set it up correctly.
It's not quite as good on the MK2 as it is on the mortar, because the MK2 really wants that face up to be fire supporting, and also because taking multiple vets in a list to like chain them together is not efficient for the same reason that shores are. But I think it's great in like edge cases like this where you're running a Luke Sabine, or you could even do this in like Luke Han, and use Sorry About the Mess to have Luke go on a 0-pip, where you have like 2 focus pieces.
Ooh, that's so dirty.
Yeah. It's I think it's still good for rebels in a situation like that where you have 2 focus pieces and you want to be able to give both of them orders on 1-pip turns.
I just got chills thinking about that. I need to build that list and play it now.
Yeah, I mean it's always been
awesome.
Yeah, it's always been possible with units that have uplinks, right? Like I messed around a while ago with we called it Sorry About the Barbecue, but it's essentially a Han list with uplinked flame RTs, which just got cheaper, incidentally. Where you play
what, 5 points cheaper?
Well, they each got 5 points cheaper, and then I also used Chewie on that list, who got 15 points cheaper. So my Sorry About the Barbecue list got 30 points cheaper.
Yeah, so it got a buff essentially.
Yeah, I got a Z6 and an astromech in there.
That's dope.
Yeah, so I'm going to be messing around with that probably a lot. That's also one of the reasons I haven't decided on a faction yet for Invader League.
If someone could just run that against your CIS and then just like laugh maniacally.
Yeah, right.
But then they laugh maniacally as Grievous kills everything in sight.
That's the thing, is there's not a clear Grievous counter on that list. So you might murder all the B1s, but then like what is Han gonna do to Grievous in melee? Like I don't.
Yeah. Jordicas will just massively suppress him if he's ever in the open.
Yeah, so there are, that's not a clear like advantage matchup necessarily. But anyway, point is you can use this uplink relay trick to win priority for other focus pieces when you can't give them orders directly. So
or hold a piece and lose priority.
Similar,
when you're playing an operative card.
Yep, exactly.
This is actually really important for Operative Luke, because Operative Luke may need to use this tech if he wants to take another hero.
Yeah, because if you run Operative Luke with
operative cards,
and if you run him with all of his cards, he's only gonna have 2 turns where he can actually give orders to other units. So
so consider a relay mortar if you're interested.
Yeah, it's something to consider. Now, if you're running Operative Luke with just like a generic officer and a bunch of schmoes, then you probably don't care about giving orders out to anyone else. But if you want to run like Han Operative Luke, which is potentially pretty spicy, if not a little expensive, then this would be something to think about.
You know what? We made a mistake. Johannes was running the Luke Sabine, not Finn.
Yeah, that's what we said.
Oh, yeah. Derp. Okay, sorry, Jay. More editing work.
Oh, I'm leaving that in.
Yeah,
I'm not editing. Yeah, I'm not editing this one, David. So you screw up, it's on you, bro.
Save me.
So how many F-bombs do we get, Jay?
Yeah,
as many as you want. They're just going to turn into R2D2 beeps.
But Jay, editing is not a May. You're responsible for the game state. Just like
editing's like bounty.
Yeah,
it's not a May.
All right, let's
tomorrow.
Let's move on. Let's move on to Legion 101.
Yeah. Oh, can we just say what Finn won with? Shoot, let's give some respect to him.
We did.
He won with Shores, right?
Yeah, it was Krennic Boss Shores. Yeah.
Derpity derp.
Yeah, we said that.
Hey, David.
David.
Thanks for showing up to the podcast, buddy.
you playing like Nintendo Switch while we're podcasting here?
What's going on?
The sad part is definitely not.
We're just yanking your rope there. Yeah, I know I mixed metaphors again. All right.
The rope I will soon use to hang myself with.
Whoa, jeez.
Oh man! Wow, that got.
You wanted to cut that one out. That's super dark.
Yeah. You should cut that.
Scoundrels After Dark. No.
That's darker than Palpatine's pantaloons.
Does he even wear pantaloons, or is he just like naked under that robe?
Are you threatening me, Master Jedi?
That is darker than Luke's desires for his sister.
Yeah.
Hey, does it count if he doesn't know?
Wow.
He knew somewhere inside. Yeah.
Ever heard of genetic sexual attraction?
All right, how about we move on to Legion 101?
I mean, if you want.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we could just continue, just like bantering.
All right. And insert drop. And yes, I know you have to cut that when I say something.
Yeah.
That
was a System 1 decision.
that was a System 1 response right there.
Yep.
So we're going to talk. This is going to be a little bit of an academic Legion 101. We're going to talk about System 1 and System 2 thinking. So thoughting. Yeah. So let's talk about what we mean by that. So there was a book that was written. This has been like a concept in academia for a while, but there was a book that was written that kind of like popularized it, called Thinking Fast and Slow, by Daniel Kahneman. It's an interesting book, but basically
he also wrote Hurry Up and Wait.
Yeah, I have not.
I'm joking.
Oh, okay. I was going to say I have not read that
Terrible.
one. But so essentially, the difference between System 1 and System 2, that's like a fancy way of essentially saying reactionary or fight or flight, and that's System 1. And then System 2 is like focused, intentional thought. So fight or flight is like the token example of System 1 thinking, where you're just reacting. And there are benefits to both of those things. Your brain spends most of the time in your day doing things in System 1. And that's primarily because it's easier. It's less work for your brain. But it's also, prone to, like, it prioritizes speed over correctness. Often will be correct anyway, because it's doing, it's your brain on autopilot. So if you've trained your brain to do things quickly and effectively, when it goes to system 1, then it's going to do those things correctly. But if you haven't done that, then it's going to do them incorrectly, which is how this is applicable to Legion. So whether you like it or not, you spend most of your Legion games in system 1, doing things that are reactionary. And you want to do as many like important tactical things in system 2 and spending focused thought on that, if that makes sense.
Well, let me ask you this. So is system 1 always considered reactionary, or is it also considered like automatic responses to situations? So I think okay.
Yeah, reactionary may be like a bad shorthand for this. So it is automatic, it's fast, and it's generally unconscious. It's more efficient than system 2, but it's also prone to biases and errors potentially because it's faster. Whereas system 2 is effortful, slow, and controlled, but it requires more energy, and you can't make it work without like specific focus and attention. But it can.
Yeah, like system 1 is that thing like where you're doing karate and you're practicing these moves over and over and over again for when somebody really attacks you, and then one of your friends goes to like put his hand on your shoulder and you just have an immediate response to like block the hand or something, right? From like, because it's just been built into your system 1 subconscious.
Right. Like most of the time it's going to be useful, right? Like this is the reason that we've survived as a species primarily. But there's also going to be times. So tell me. So let's circle this back to Legion. Tell me if you've ever done this. It's your turn to go, right? It's your turn to activate something, and you just instinctively reach into your bag and pull out a token, and then you're like, crap! Yep. I didn't want to pull a token. I wanted to go with my face-up order on Luke or whoever. That's an example of a system 1 response where you needed to like slow it down a little bit and use system 2 thought to do something intentional, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I have a similar example. Is you'll be thinking about a plan, and then like you'll just pull the token anyway.
Yep.
Because you just lost your focus and you reverted to system 1, which was I need to execute the actions of the game.
Right, and I've actually noticed, like when I'm playing Separatists and you've got your face-ups all on the table, like it makes me realize how much you revert to system 1 and you don't want to, because like there is no instinctive pull a bag from the token when you're playing Separatists. Your tokens are all face-up and you can do whatever you want. So like, it gets to my turn and I'm pausing and my brain hits like an error 4R4 because I can't pull from the bag. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I have to actually think about this decision. So it's like forcing, in that situation, it's forcing my brain into system 2 when it's not used to it. And that's an indicator that like that's where I should be going in the first place, even when I'm not playing Separatists. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. It makes complete sense because you have played the game under a certain regime, right? And now you have a new regime.
Yep.
Which is there is no token stack.
Right. There is no spoon.
So you don't have room. Exactly. You don't have room to revert to the old way of thinking. So I have a piece of advice, by the way, for folks who are trying to engage their system 2 brains more thoroughly. I think I've started to do this automatically maybe not automatically, but I've started to use a mantra to try to get myself into more system 2 modes of thinking. Is I just say to myself, concentrate on making the next best move. And that what that does is that encourages my brain to look at the table and start analyzing positions and then making a deliberate effort to think out, okay, when my opponent's turn is over, what am I doing next? Rather than just riding the feeling of I'm in a game, I'm winning, or I'm in a game and I'm losing, and letting my emotions dictate that.
And there are a couple ways where you can sort of there are a couple simple things that you can do to kind of push your important tactical decisions onto system 2. And the first is to just like essentially free up memory for it. in your brain, and you do that by getting reps. Like the system 1 is good for things like cohesion and measuring, and putting your dudes in cover, things that like should be automatic when you're playing every time you activate something. And like the more reps you get in, the more practice you get with the game, the more you can sort of use the autopilot part of your brain for those things, and leave more RAM for your focused thought. So it's really important to get reps in as much as possible, not just so you become comfortable with your list, but also so that you can sort of push those mechanics onto autopilot. And
I can build on that example, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before you move on to example number 2.
Yep,
when we started playing with medics, now suddenly there were 2 special units in my groups, or in my squads, and so I had to like be extra careful not to just system 1 it, because I just had like monumentally more errors in cohesion, because suddenly I had a 6 unit or 6 person unit rather than a 5 person unit. And I mean, I was still applying general rules, but I was still vulnerable because I hadn't gone back to reevaluate what my system 1 type thinking was doing in that moment. So that's just one example. Like you need to get the reps because you want it to be automatic, but consider, I think, like evaluate whether you can afford to be automatic. Does that make sense?
Right. Yep. And the other thing is to sort of try and this is hard, definitely, but try and push your emotions out of the game, because your system 1 responses are often essentially biased by emotion. And an example
also
of
known
this
as tilt.
is like tilt, right? Yeah, we're talking about tilt. So an example of this is like a bad dice roll, right? There is absolutely nothing that you can do about it. There are no decisions you can make or actions that you can take that changes the result of that roll, right? But it can nonetheless still impair your thinking by like tweaking your emotions. And really what you should do in that situation is take the results, pick up your dudes that died, or put down your wound tokens or whatever, assess your new situation and move on. But it's very natural in that situation to like be upset about what happened, like if you just get diced. But you're going to impair your ability to recover from that if you let your emotions.
Have you ever played against a Boba Fett and you think about shooting him and you're like, I'm just going to save it anyway?
Yep.
Like that's a classic example of letting the dice tilt you.
Well, and it's also potentially a past experience tilting you, because I'm sure that if you have that reaction, that means that there was some time in the past where you pumped a lot of shots into Boba Fett and he just kept rolling paint repeatedly.
Right, so it discourages you from making what is actually, those factors aside, the correct decision.
Correct. Yep.
Which is shoot him.
Right. You're letting a previous, potentially like uncharacteristically unlucky experience bias your thought into doing something that is not advantageous to you. So, yeah.
Well said.
I know. Yep. You got any thoughts on all this, Jay? I know this is kind of an academic subject, but
what are you saying? I'm not an academic. Screw you, Kyle.
No.
Hey
man, you said F math first.
Yeah.
You did.
No, I think this is, yeah, I did. I don't like math. But I think this is something that I've kind of, without getting detailed into the academic side, is something I've always preached, was like, hey, when you get a list, don't keep changing the list like until you've played at least 5 to 10 times, right? And like that's the only way you're going to become good, is if you just keep playing the list over and over again. Even a list that may not be great for other players, but just speaks to you, if you just keep playing it, like you're going to find ways to do well with it, because I think you'll be in that system 1 setting, because you'll know your cards, you'll know your units, you know what they can handle, you know what they can do in certain situations, and so that all just kind of goes into automatic mode, and then you can sit there and think about the larger game as a whole and how you're going to win this particular game that you're in now, while you're doing all the other stuff just kind of on autopilot.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look back, like reflection is an important part of this too. Like every single game that I've lost, I can always attribute to some kind of high level strategic decision. I've never been diced in the sense that there was a game that I would have won if a roll went a different way, and I also could not have made decisions better, like on the strategic level. And I think that's generally true of most games, but unless you're A, reflecting, but B, trying to push as much of those like important strategic decisions into focused thought, you might chalk up a loss to dice when in fact like there was some strategic consideration that you just didn't even think about, because you couldn't, you didn't push your brain into that focused thought at the right moment.
I have a relevant example yet again. I feel
you go ahead.
Okay, so let's say you are at the end of a game and there's a melee unit with a standby that's threatening one of your box carriers. Your box carrier doesn't actually have to perform any actions on its turn, but your system one thinking might say, well, I guess I have to do a couple actions now. And the answer is actually, if you look at the picture, there's an alternative. You don't have to act. You can just sit still. Most people don't think that that's an option, but units can pass their turn because they can perform up to 2 actions. So
right, which includes 0 actions.
Correct. And so you can avoid a standby that way, but that doesn't come up frequently. So your system one thinking might trap you into thinking you have to perform actions, but really you don't. And that very nearly cost me a pretty important game at a LVO. And in fact, I actually bit, and I didn't get punished. But in hindsight, I could have just stood still. But that was total system one. I didn't even think that I could just pass.
And that's a good example of a situation where like it's not common, right? But it also, in that particular instance, wasn't like a critically important moment in that game. And when that happens, you need to like slow it down and push yourself into focused thought.
Even at the end of situation, 10 hours of playing.
Right, exactly. And this is like legitimately challenging to do, which is why we're talking about it. But it's also why reps are so important. So the shorthand advice here is play more games.
Well, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I've been kind of coming to this place lately where I'm against changing lists so frequently. And I think we're getting sucked into this kind of trap lately where all this new stuff is coming out, like what's the new hotness? And so we end up switching it up, and then maybe we get more of a defeatist attitude because, like, let's say Tauntauns came out and you're like, I'm going to fly Tauntauns at this next RPQ I'm going to. And then you get obliterated because you just weren't good enough at Tauntauns yet. And then you're like, well, they suck. Well, but the answer really is that in this kind of system 1-2 decision making, that you hadn't done enough repetition to make it muscle memory for most of it to stay in system 1 so that you could move to system 2. And so I think my takeaway from this and where it relates to Legion is build a list, put a lot of thought into building a list, and then play the list at least 10 times before you make a decision on whether or not you're going to move forward with it, if you have that opportunity.
Yeah, don't like switch factions and go into a tournament cold and decide that those are going to be your first games with that faction. I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the lists I take to tournaments, man, like my list since LVO has not fundamentally changed. Like until now, if you take LVO as my starting point, it was 11 activation Luke Leia. Went to Adepticon, 10 activation Luke Leia with Pathfinders. Gen Con, 10 activation Luke Leia with 6 Z's and 2 snipers. Like it fundamentally never changed. because it was what I knew I could play at the absolute limit of my ability. And that's pretty much what Jay is talking about here. Don't change immediately. You have to like really take a minute and just like say, did I just play it poorly? Did I just have a bad decision point, etc.?
Yep. Yeah, and it's why we were constantly hammering that like the best list is the one that you're most comfortable with.
Well, and I would say, and I don't know how many listeners are into sports, but it's like, to make like a sports analogy, it's like, okay, if you have LeBron James on your team, but you've lost a couple games, you don't take LeBron James off your team and switch him out for somebody else. You got to build the parts around him that make the team great, right? And you keep practicing with all the different parts until they start working well together. And I guess part of what we end up doing, and I'm guilty of this too, is like, oh, the new hotness comes out, like Krennic. I had that 12 activation Veers list that I was doing. I felt very comfortable with. Krennic came out, and all of a sudden I'm switching up my list. And so I think the thought is maybe keep, like David, you're still playing Luke Leia, like keep your major stars who are putting up all the points for you, but then changing the support staff around them in order to make the team great versus good or adequate.
Right. And this is why I'm looking forward to Operative Luke so much, is because I think he has enough resources and enough punch to actually take on Triple Tauntaun and win, because I think he just has enough tools to deal with it. And he's also, with the reduction in points to rotaries, you can also bring a little bit of armor behind him, which makes it even tougher for Tauntauns to really deal with, because Tauntauns can't cheese the engagement rules when they go into melee with armor. They are still vulnerable to being shot, and that's a huge benefit to that. Plus Luke, with tenacity, has an 8 dice attack, which should be enough to kill an injured Tauntaun squad just on his own. But more to the point, Jay, you're right. Like, I love Luke. Luke is a thing I love to play. I'm having to divert away from him because I just got a little bit tired of putting all my eggs into one basket. And I also think that Commander Luke currently is pretty solved. People know how to deal with him extremely well. But Operative Luke is going to bring some new toys and change the calculus on that a little bit. And maybe we'll see Rebels swing back to non-Tauntaun lists because of Operative Luke. But the fundamental point is the same. It's that I didn't think Luke could handle it, and so I switched. But if I thought Luke could handle it, I'd still play Luke, because it's what I like to do and it's what I know. And if I don't have to learn a huge plethora of new strategies, which, playing Tauntauns, I've had to adapt my tactics completely away from the normal, defensive gun line, because that's what Tauntauns were designed to do, was break that meta. But Luke may herald a return of that, because he is, I think, a linebacker on the order of a Palpatine, a linebacker strong enough to actually just handle the Tauntauns on his own, with the assistance of some crit surge and rotaries, maybe.
Well, and his new command cards, particularly Surveyor Master Well, is excellent against Tauntauns.
Yeah, there are some awesome tricks you can pull with that, which we can explore in more detail during our episode on Operative Luke specifically.
Yeah, there's so many ridiculous uses for that card. It's I think it might be the most flexible command card in the game.
Yeah, it's also, I also read it again, and I was just amazed to find that was a free action.
Yeah,
that's so crazy.
You can have some crazy.
It's not. It's like a better really pull the strings.
Well, sort of. It's you can only do it once per game, but when you do it, it's going to be pretty important. So
yeah, it's going to be like game defining, possibly.
Yep. So
even more home runs to hit now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just another home run that's got to be hit.
Yep, for sure. But Operative Luke's pretty good at hitting them. So
yep.
All right. You guys want to talk about points rebalance?
Sure.
No. I'm just kidding. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I just want to see what you guys would do if I was like, no.
Well, you wrote an article about a lot of the points rebalances, Kyle.
I did. So let's move on to our competitive / tactics section.
Get ready for advanced tactics.
See there, Jay. I left a space for the drop, and I didn't even say something that you had to edit over.
How mature we are.
All right.
Except for that,
maybe
right
that.
there. Yep.
No, he's gonna leave it in.
I know. That's why I said it. All right. Let's talk about the points rebalance. So I wrote an article where I basically gave my takes on all or most of the changes except for the EWEB, which I apparently forgot. I have a historically well documented. Yeah, I have a historically well documented potentially unreasonable dislike for the EWEB. So it wasn't like even in my brain because like it's not a unit that exists in my brain. So I wrote the article and then like Kevin from Imperial Discipline was like, "What about the EWEB?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's a thing."
I'd like to start with the EWEB then, Kyle.
Yeah. Let's all right, Jay.
You heard it here first.
What do you think of the EWEB?
Not a unit.
Go ahead, Jay. What do you think? So here, let's talk about what
Sure.
changed with respect to it first.
You want me to do that, or
do you want to go ahead? Yeah. No, man. EWEB is all you. This. I have not heard of this unit, so I'd like to hear about it.
So the main thing with the EWEB is now it's able to move if it wants, which is kind of a big deal with EWEBs at this point, right? Before, for instance, you could only move once, and that was frustrating, especially if you got a rough deployment or you knew you had to, mainly the thought behind the EWEBs is you're going to try to position them in a place on the board to get into a fire lane to kind of protect an area or to use them as kind of a distraction. They're very good at distracting your opponent, and your opponent starts to focus down on them while the rest of your army can get into the next position to hold the objectives. And that was always tough because they were slow and it was hard to get them positioned correctly. So unless you got a good deployment for them turn one, generally turn one was a wash for them. It was just you trying to get into a position, and then maybe if you're lucky turn two you'd be in a position where you could get a standby, but then by that time your opponent usually already had the beat on where you were heading, so they were kind of ready for it anyways. But with the errata here, being able to move twice during a turn, I think really opens up the field to the EWEBs and allows you to get them into position faster for a turn two protection mode, I think.
Let's not forget also that EWEBs were one of those units that were utterly hated out by the infinite range firepower that Leia and triple snipers brought.
Yes.
I had games where it was literally bombard sniper. Thanks for the 55 points.
Yeah, so the sniper errata definitely helps them a lot. But I would even think if that, I think being able to move and to get into position helped with that as well. So really, I think some of the rebalance on the other cards helped them. And then the barrage generator, or both generators, right, dropped 3 points. I don't know. I don't really care about that as much, but it was okay.
It's a nice little card especially if you're running Veers with Imperial Discipline. The barrage generator, especially, it adds suppressive and dice. So if you've got an EWEB that's actually like in a useful position, which is easier to do than it was before, then you're throwing some extra dice and suppressive, and you can refresh it with Discipline. You can also give them orders now with shores, so they're being helped indirectly by a lot of things that have nothing to do with the fact that they lost plotting. You talked about the sniper nerfs, which we'll get to in a minute.
Well, and I would even...
There's actually a lot of...
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kyle.
I was going to say there's a lot of units that are helped by those, which we'll talk about also. But in addition to that, the shore troopers existing, they have coordinate placement, which is obviously not just the mortar. They can do that to EWEBs too.
Yeah, I would say the other thing that I've kind of been looking forward to that The reason I'm kind of meh on Barrage Generator is because building a list with 3 Shore Troopers and 3 Mortar Troopers, you can use fire support with the Mortar Troopers and tie that into an E-Web and add 3 white dice with suppressive. It's kind of good.
Yeah, I mean, you're still like losing a suppression that way, but because you're combining 2 attacks into one. But yeah, you could do that. We talked a lot about fire support on the mortar 3 or 4 episodes ago now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, you could do that. I think fire support on the mortar particularly is kind of a trap sometimes.
Well, we're also
But
missing.
We'll rehash our whole conversation.
We're also missing the whole fact that the E-Web is a cheap crit surge platform that can throw more than 2 dice at range 3, and is also a range 3 standby. So if you run against triple tauntauns, it significantly affects your ability as a tauntaun player to get in if the opposing player is able to issue standbys to it, such as deploy the garrison, or just having priority with Voracious and issuing a standby token. And crits don't care about dodges, which is the tauntaun's main way of avoiding damage.
Okay.
Is dodge tokens.
So there's an important timing consideration when it comes to Agile, and that's that after effects like Agile and Relentless and Steady and Charge, they occur after the move, but there are 2 things that explicitly occur before those after triggers, and those are Detonate and Standby. So if you have an E-Web with a standby token, and a tauntaun wanders into your standby, you can shoot it with the E-Web before it gains its dodge token from Agile. And the same is true of saboteurs with Detonate. If a tauntaun wanders into range of a bomb, you can blow that bomb up before it gains its dodge token from Agile. So keep that in mind if you're playing sabs or anything with standby against tauntauns.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've always loved E-Webs. I had kind of dropped them in recent months, but with this change, I'm back. I'm high on them again. And I'd like to point out that Kyle hates them so much that even after people pointed out he didn't put them in his article, he still hasn't updated his article to include them. So just
this is true. Old rank handicap, new rank handicap.
Yeah, wow.
No, I don't know. I'm just kidding. I don't actually think that's true. I don't even think they were before. I think they're pretty viable now, actually. So we'll see. I might even play around with one myself. We'll have to see.
Blasphemy.
And they're
I doubt
only,
it.
They're only. Yeah, you're probably right. I love. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. I don't like things that are slow and don't move.
My FD cannon veterans wave high to your E-Web snowtroopers.
Yeah.
From my shelf.
I don't know. Maybe I just hate E-Webs because I actually like snowtroopers and Palpatine, and I don't mind the new range 5 FD.
Which is funny because
maybe I just irrationally hate.
I was
E-Webs.
just going to say that Palpatine actually gives E-Webs, even more play because you can pull the strings on this crit shot. There's probably better things you can pull the strings with.
Like short troopers?
Yeah, like short troopers.
I mean, man, we'll talk about. Yeah,
well, and
we'll do
Kyle, for your perfect activation control, like I've always Palpatine with E-Webs and then getting rapid reinforcements is like my favorite combination.
Oh wow!
Because you could play entire Legion turn 1 and you rapid reinforce the E-Webs. So then you know exactly when they're going to go and where you want them to go.
Yep, and you can drop them last where there's.
Yeah, that's a great use of entire Legion. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I've actually done a couple times. You just gotta make sure all your guys are actually in range of Palpatine. There was one game where I got rapid reinforcements, and I was so excited about doing that trick, and I left one sniper out of Palpatine's range.
No.
So I had my snowtroopers. I had my snowtroopers and the sniper in the back, and it's like, well, that didn't work. Yeah, so that wasn't great, but yeah, entire Legion trick with rapid. All right, let's so we got a lot of units and upgrades to plow through here. So let's talk about the biggest
What
one.
if you just like lightning
We
around
might as
it?
well lead with
Like, what if you just name the thing and then we
lightning
just
round.
like compress our thoughts into like 30 seconds?
I like that. I don't know about 30 seconds, especially
Okay.
on this one, but yeah, I like lightning round.
Sure.
Let's do snipers
Just
first.
name it. Okay, snipers. Definitely needed.
All right, lightning round, snipers.
Definitely needed. Range 5 is
well,
cool.
let's talk about what changed
Okay,
first.
okay, sure.
Yeah. So the strike team themselves, not the sniper rifle, but the strike team got +4 points. One of only 2 things that actually got a point increase, the other being stims. And then the sniper rifle range was reduced from unlimited to 5, which is a new thing. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, new range band means snipers are no longer shooting other snipers, generally speaking, which it's like a stealth buff, kind of. It is more expensive, but at the same time, it's sort of like now I can shoot you from safety. You just need to make sure you get the open cover shot because you're still spending 48 points on an activation that may do nothing half the time. But anyway, snipers I think needed the change. It's nice to have cheaper options. It makes the sort of naked core unit look a lot better as a cheap activation option. Snipers still I think have a place. I think the one of now has a real place in lists because now you have a unit that can do back objectives and influence the middle from their rear position, and you still have corner peeking available to you. They didn't change that.
Yeah, and right, and I actually think the biggest change as it relates to snipers, with respect to the range 5, is that like if you want to take 1 or 2 snipers, that's way safer and more viable than it was before. Simply because with unlimited range and snipers shooting snipers, if you took 1 sniper and you went up against someone else with 3, he was just gonna die.
You were completely outmatched and could not actually play with that unit. It was just
right
points waiting to be killed.
Right, but now there's like essentially a situation. A likely outcome here is that you've got your 2 like front lines, right, and your front lines are going to be at roughly range 3 of each other. And then your snipers are going to be behind those front lines, and they're going to be in range of your opponent's front line, but probably not in range of your opponent's back line, which is going to be, other snipers and things like mortars. So like if you want to take 1 sniper, you can probably take that 1 sniper and he can do like back objectives and also throw some dice at your opponent's front line and still be relatively safe from your opponent's snipers.
Yeah, he can do my favorite part of snipers. There's two like of my favorite parts about the strike team, which were not engaging the sniper war. 1 is stripping standby from beyond a standby range. 2 is finishing off unit leaders and making sure you get that kill if you get the hits. Pierce just means that unit leader is gone, and especially against clones and especially against Empire, making sure those unit leaders die is crucial. Clones, especially with their token share, are going to be in position to hold on to their points, and so you need that sort of tool in your arsenal. Anyway,
yeah, for sure. I think there. So I don't want to. If you want to read the article and go into like I did like a ranking scale with competitive ranks and stuff. I don't want to go into that super much here in the podcast, but I think these guys are still competitive. They're definitely not like mandatory anymore, like they almost were previously. But I think you can take 1 or 2, or even in the right list 3 of them, and they'll still be great and useful. The thing that the range 5 is still ultimately a nerf. Like it does limit their ability to affect the opposite side of the battlefield, which previously like I've won games just because a sniper like sniped a backfield box carrier or something like that. In fact, my game with John Grasser at Nova, like I was sort of losing early, and I essentially like used a sniper to kill one of his backfield units that was doing evaporator, and he wasn't able to fully like repair that evaporator, and that allowed me to essentially get back in the game. But it was lengthwise, there's no way with range 5 that I would have been able to make that shot. And that's going to be a thing that snipers can't really do anymore, is like sort of steal those back objectives from your opponent with snipes.
Yeah, the cross map clutch shots are gone. There's no more of those.
Yep. Right. That's definitely a nerf to them. The 4 points definitely hurts.
Yeah, I
I've been
think
trying to
trips are
build
dead.
Palpatine list. Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. I think
Well,
trips can still be decent, but it's definitely harder to do than it used to be. 4 points doesn't feel like it's a lot, but it actually is a lot.
yeah, 12 is fairly
Um,
significant change when you
yep.
consider triple.
Yeah, but I think they're still good. Like they're still a cheap activation. They can still contribute meaningfully. Range 5 is still really far. That's farther than anything else in the game can
Yeah,
shoot still. So
with your move
except the
shoot,
FD.
that's still like 35 inches, right? That's 3 feet. It's a lot of table.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they're still good. I definitely don't think people have been like, oh, snipers are dead now. I definitely don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I don't think they're dead.
Most of my lists still.
I just think that right now bidding for limited visibility is actually more effective. But that's a whole nother
If you have
discussion.
snipers.
And if you don't have snipers, bidding for limited
Oh
visibility is like
yeah.
requisite and is actually a more effective general strategy. Just because I'm on the train where I think the power level in this game is ramping up such to the point where you cannot afford to have activations do nothing. Like that's the next level of optimization is that you never have an activation that's wasted. Like you can't afford to
Yep,
fall behind
agree.
on tempo that way. And
Mhm.
this is just talking at the absolute highest level of play. We're not talking about um, your general experience. Anywho,
Yep.
yeah, snipers needed it, and they're still usable, very very usable. They're just they're different.
And I think that's the right amount of nerf bat. You don't want to, like, when you nerf something, you don't want to hit it so hard that it just becomes something that nobody takes anymore. So I think
Yeah, I mean
it's
Alex and Luke said as much, right?
it's
They don't want to resign those units to the shelf.
right. Yeah. So I think it's good. You got any thoughts, Jay? Snipers. Jay is
I think it just no. I'm here. No, I think it was good because I think there's a lot of units that look more attractive now because snipers they're still a threat, but less of a threat. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree. All right, let's talk about Sabs real quick because they're also affected by this strike team point increase. They did not get any like errata, as their weapon and stuff still works exactly the same. They just had that point increase to the strike team, which is +4, and also Stims went up. We can talk about Stims too at the same time. Stims went up by 4 points, and that was a very popular upgrade on Sabs. So essentially, at least the old way of fielding Sabs increased by 8 points. What do you guys think of this?
Well, stims were pretty abusive, and so were stim saboteurs. I mean, it's not that they were impossible to overcome. I had to beat a list like that at Gen Con. But if you have a really good map and you're able to secure blue, they're pretty hard to get around. And I don't think they're unusable. I think you can still play triple saboteurs with a few small adjustments. I think it was the fact that you could play triple saboteurs and integrate them in a fully streamlined way into a standard Wonder Twins list that I think was really that was really kind of the straw that broke the camel's back in a way. You basically had this really amazing tech defensively, and that could also generate value on offense if your bombs landed in the right spot. And the top rebel list, which was Luke Leia, essentially lost no speed incorporating it. And so I think in the long run, we might come to view pre-nerf Luke Leia saboteurs as the best possible rebel list, given infinite time and resources to prepare for tournament. But I think with the changes, it definitely got harder to field it, and so that discourages. It basically breaks the whole your whole ability to spam these units because it used to be 150, and now with the changes, it's 74. I think. Is that how far it went up? Because you have 8 for the 8, 4 from the
Yeah,
strike
so
team, 4 from the so you lose 24 points trying to do it, which is the size of a medic and change. And that's a
right
problem
now,
for
in
the old
theory,
lists.
in theory, that's true. One thing, so you can't talk about Sabs without talking about Daniel Lupo, who
Yeah.
went to Worlds with him,
Yeah,
and
who ran that list I
anyone
described.
anyone that and anyone that says like, oh no, Sabs were fine, they didn't need any changes. Anyone that says that hasn't played against Lupo.
Yeah.
But anyway, like he made the point, like you actually in practice you end up keeping one of your Sab teams back anyway, so that you have like a trigger man. If your other two die, you still need to be able to blow up bombs. So you essentially just cut one of your stim upgrades, and use him as your trigger man, and then you just take 2 stims instead of 3. So, the cost, if you do that, the cost to field 3 Sabs only went up by 12 points. Because the cost to field the 3 strike teams went up by 12, and the cost to field your 2 stims went up by 4 each for 8. But then you're cutting a stim, which is -8. So, like, your net cost increase is just 12, which is the same as it was for sniper strike teams.
Right. So, I mean, this is just one method to soften the blow. But at the same time, I don't know if I should let this out. My inner cynical competitor says it's a nerfed unit, don't play it. Like, maybe that's a system 1 reaction. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that's true. There's actually a lot of list crafting I've been doing that incorporates Sabs now. There's a couple things I think that indirectly also help them, particularly Rebel Sabs. We'll talk about Chewie in a second and the FD, but I think both of those things help Sabs for different reasons. But I think they're still fine. I don't know that there's still a very high skill cap unit. So like, prepare. It's not going to be any different. Like if you're putting them on the table for the first time, there's going to be a steep learning curve, but I think they're still competitive.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to pay a small tax, but that's just it. Like, I think ultimately the change from the old list is you don't run the officer fleet anymore. You just run a regular Z6, and I think that pays for the change with the cutting one stem.
Right, and you can essentially do still the same thing. You can still
because it used to be
11 activations. You can still run.
Right, it used to be you could threat saturate with Luke fleets with an officer and 3 Sabs. Like that was pretty crazy amount of threat you could generate.
Yep. All right, so those are probably the 2 biggest changes, because strike teams were probably the 2 like biggest nerfed well, they were the only nerfed units, and then the Stims upgrade. Do you guys want to talk about Stims upgrade real quick, since we briefly touched on it with Sabs, as it relates to like other uses of Stims?
Yeah, I kind of I liked this change because I found eStims it was just so easy to add to a list, and you could just incorporate it in there, and it just changed so much in a game, right? Whether it's on the Sabs or whether it's on Luke or Sabine or what have you. Like it always just made, or Boba there for a while. It just always seemed to really affect games, and so I think it needed the point increase in order for it to be more reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, I just echo what Alex and Luke said. It was like certain heroes, 1 extra round is the difference between victory and defeat. And it's kind of unrewarding to the player that really just played better when you have this opportunistic, use of a particular upgrade that kind of eclipses all other potential upgrades in that slot because of the reward that you get. So like an extra round with your 150 plus point character versus any other gear, like that's definitely still a consideration even at 12 points. But it's still a hard to swallow pill, I think, for some of the lesser heroes like Han, for example, to throw to increase his cost by 10% by throwing emergency stims on him. But I mean, it was just an ubiquitous upgrade.
Yeah, especially for Luke, Sabine, and Boba Fett. This is a lot of people are like, well, why weren't there any changes to Luke, Sabine, Boba Fett, and Bosk? And
Yeah, why didn't
it's
Force
kind of
Push
like
get a points increase?
yeah, and Luke actually answered that specific question very eloquently on our cast last week. So if you want to hear that straight from the horse's mouth, just listen to that. But the short answer is like Stims is an indirect nerf to Luke specifically. Anyway, and like you said, I think people are getting better at sort of solving him. He's kind of been outpaced by their tools anyway. Like, not that he's bad; he's still an excellent
No,
unit.
he's still amazing.
But I think in the context of where we are now with the game, I don't think he needed a bump.
No.
Yeah. All right. Let's. You guys want to do lightning?
Yeah.
Round?
Just throw names out, and we'll just give you our thoughts.
All right. Jyn Erso minus 20 points, down to 110. Duck and cover minus 4 points, down to 4.
Love it.
Definitely needed. Definitely more appropriate to her current power level. Still going to get chopped in half by lightsabers.
And still has, in my opinion, lackluster command cards for what you're paying for what's essentially a support hero.
Yeah, I mean, she's a really fun character, and I love Complete the Mission. Like, those are great cards. Complete the Mission specifically.
I always felt like we were just missing something with her, so I'm hoping the points decrease will allow players to start putting her in lists, and maybe we could see what we're missing. That's always been my thought.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was necessary. I think sort of similar to Chewie, who we'll talk about next, I think she's got other issues that have nothing to do with her point cost. Her command cards are super situational. She doesn't do anything that like directly helps other Rebel units, which is something that all of the other Rebel characters do. And she's costed like a offensive hero, but she has very poor offense. So, I don't know that this, like, it certainly makes, like, she's still really good at recover and breakthrough. She's still very difficult to kill with ranged chip damage. And now she can be good at those things for cheaper. So I think that's good, but
she's an extremely strong support.
I still have difficulty fitting her in.
Yeah, she's an extremely strong support for Courage 2 heroes because she's a really cheap Courage 3 bubble now. And Duck and Cover got cheaper too. So the things that make her tick, so to speak, to get her up to the high level of danger sense that she needs to actually start repelling damage later on in the game, those are all made her very good. But the only card, like you said, the only card of hers that really truly buffs other units in any significant way is Complete the Mission, because it can make those 3 face-ups immune essentially to the effects of suppression for a turn, which, it definitely applies to a number of units, especially fleet troopers in particular, and perhaps Bistan, if he has a fully charged danger sense and he doesn't want to lose it, he can just recover without removing suppression because of Complete the Mission.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think her real value now is she's a cheap Courage 3 commander that has a range 3 piercing gun that maybe you can fire support.
Yeah, which is no small thing. Like, her gun is fine. It's reliable. And that Courage 3 bubble is also very important. I think I made the joke on the Discord. I think she's a good pairing for Luke, either version of Luke, because I always make a point about I hate cutting command cards. Well, with her, I think that I could field all 6 of Luke's command cards and not feel bad about it. I know that other people don't feel the same way about Jin's cards, but I would take all 6 of Luke's cards before I started taking any of Jin's
I got to put her
list.
back on the table. I don't know, man. CTM needs another look. It's like, I know this is good. How do I make it good? And the answer is probably I have to fight a Krennic list, because it specifically negates the effects of suppression.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, something with all these changes is that a lot of these units, particularly like the T47 and the ATST, just haven't seen table time since really probably like last year. And now that they've gotten sort of new life with these points drops, I think people are going to have like sort of forgotten what they do. Like, I'm going to run up against an ATST. I'm going to be like, what do I do with this thing? I haven't seen an ATST in months.
Yeah. Also,
so,
presuming that
I think the same is true of Jin. Like, she's...
Sorry, go on. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you made this point already, essentially, but I think she's got some tools that were previously just not utilized because she was too expensive. And maybe now we'd see some more clever uses of those tools now that it's easier to fit her in.
Yeah, that was all I was really going to say. Next.
Okay. Chewie, minus 15 points.
Yay! I'm so glad that he got a points drop. He was just a pain to use at 110, and 95 is I think a lot more appropriate for him. Still kind of hard to use, just because Guardian is hard to use against crit generation. Definitely have looked at him with the new costing. Really tough because you look at Chewbacca and his point starts with a 9, and you're like, why am I not just taking a Tauntaun right now? There's definitely a strain of thinking that goes like this, because right now the major threats in the game are more melee than they are ranged, and so Guardian's value is being called into question a little bit here. Still good at resisting snipers, although snipers got a nerf. Still good at funneling attrition wounds and keeping the durability of your squads higher, because they're not losing dudes, and so your averages stay higher. Still needs tenacity to get his melee weapon to a place where it's actually threatening. 4 red by itself doesn't really get much done. 5 red, on the other hand, can actually kill trooper squads in one hit if you get lucky. The bowcaster still sucks shooting into heavy cover. Even with the crit surges, you're still kind of crit fishing. If you just took Chewie by himself in a list, he's not quite enough to kill vehicles. So, it's a problem if you just take him by himself. If he's kind of wasted in a Tauntaun against Tauntauns, but he's he's still sort of threatening. And also, when he's enraged, you can't strip the standby with shooting. So there is that. A standby Chewie versus a Tauntaun charge, not the worst.
Yeah, I think definitely this was another one that was necessary, and I think similar to Jin, he's got other issues like vulnerability to bounty and essentially like lack of his own command cards that this doesn't really fix. But I think the points drop helps, and he's also getting some help from, like, I think so. There's more crits in the game, which makes Guardian less useful. But there's also more units on the Rebel roster that are worth protecting with Guardian, and particularly ones that have gotten buffs in this update, like veterans, NFT turrets, and also Pathfinders. So we'll see. I think there's definitely some interesting uses of Guardian that probably haven't been explored in a while. But yeah, we'll see. It was necessary. It makes him easier to field. I think he's still very situational, but I could see him being. Earlier we talked about Sabs. Chewie is a great protector of Sabs with Guardian, and now he's 15 points cheaper. So,
yep.
Arguably, if you were running Sabs with Chewie before, you cut that stim, so your Sabs are plus 12, but Chewie's minus 15. So your previous Chewie Sab list got cheaper by 3 points.
Yeah, I just have trouble reconciling the fact that Chewbacca with tenacity costs the same as a Tauntaun with a jammer and tenacity. So,
yeah,
it's tough to argue against that.
Well, and that's the struggle with any Rebel unit right now.
Yeah, I mean,
the Tauntaun is a bushel.
Yeah, so
right?
he's exactly one bushel.
Chewie is yeah, Chewie is a bushel, and maybe you should just take a bushel instead. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see. All right. Darth Vader, minus 10 points. Saber throw, minus 5. Force reflexes, minus 5.
Yeah, Commander Vader needed all those changes. I think he wasn't seeing enough play, and now he's going to see a lot of play with the new command cards in the mix, plus these changes to force power costs. mean, those are all like targeted at him essentially,
right?
To make him cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's collectively, the quote-unquote traditional version of Commander Vader, where you had push, throw, and reflexes got 20 points cheaper, and he's also getting 3 more command cards, which, a little bit unlike Operative Luke, is a straight buff insofar as, like, you weren't taking Commander Vader with another character, right? So those 3 new Vader cards are replacing Ambush, Push, and Assault.
Yep. Just straight up, because there's no reason not
to. And generally speaking, right. Right, and generally speaking, in a Vader list, there's not like another unit that you super care about having orders on besides Vader himself for the most part. So it's not like you're losing much by by taking those operative cards that you can only order Vader. You're gaining the text effects and you're losing nothing essentially.
Right.
So yeah, I think collectively, the operative Vader expansion and then these points drops are a huge buff to Commander Vader, which I think is good. Like, he's the most iconic villain in Star Wars. So he should be on the table.
Yeah, infiltrate into Master of Evil. Pretty good.
Into
Dead Men, because doesn't he get a scout move off that infiltrate just to get him a head start? Yeah, so he's got So he gets to triple move turn 1 and then Master of Evil. That's so good.
Yeah, seems good.
Yeah.
And then, I think you definitely want to run him now with Choke.
Oh, heck yeah.
Instead, well, we
just
can argue
free.
About
I think Choke is important. But free dead heavies.
I don't think it's unreasonable. Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect with either him or the operative version to be able to use Choke 6 times in a game.
Yeah, you just mine value.
I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think that's unreasonable at all to expect that.
Yeah. So Vader's going to come back in a big way. That's what we're saying.
Thoughts, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, as he should, right? Like, Vader's supposed to be this big, bad, strong guy that I never felt that. Like, you only felt that at times in Legion. And now I think with the new cards, the point reduction, that you're going to be able to feel that again with him, and I think that's the game needs that, like a revitalization of the original core set, so that it feels like no matter what you take, you're gonna be competitive.
Yep. Yeah, I think he is probably as far as like distance on the scale goes, besides arguably the collective versions of the ATRT, I think he is without question the most affected unit by both the combination of this rebalance and then the upcoming releases, specifically his new command cards.
Yep.
And I agree with you guys. I think that's a good thing. All right. Speaking of largely affected units, T47 Airspeed Er, 140 points, minus 35. Harpoon, 3 points, minus 7. Ground Buzzer, 10 points, minus 10. Also immune to range 1 weapons. Thoughts?
Yeah, that last one was interesting. It's been a while since we've seen impact grenades. And so when they said that, I was like, what's that for? And then I was like, oh yeah, impact grenades on snows. That was once a thing.
It should still be a thing. It should have still been a thing, but people decided to run frag grenades because vehicles got hated out. And I was just like, you fools, you need to bring this just in case. But then people got punished for that. Nobody listens to me. That's okay.
But I mean, hey, I think the T47 minus its points was a great unit, and I think now with the point reduction, it can be again. I haven't figured out how to put it in a list yet, but I think someone.
I've tried a couple things. It's just that the people I keep playing online like to run ATSTs, and the ATST still hard counters the Airspeed Er even with the cover pilot.
Yeah,
the ATST is with a twin light blaster is like impact 4. So your Airspeed Er is very sad after getting hit by that and of maximum firepower from Veers. Like, it still has the problem of being a 7 health unit with a white save with Surge. So, even with the cover pilot, it makes it immune to chip damage. Yeah, but the concentrated fire of, weapons built to kill you will just kill you. Like, it's not invulnerable somehow or invincible.
Yeah, and it's still like 8 inches above the table, so it's not like you can hide it behind line of sight blockers.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get hit by the full force of the gun.
Yeah. No, that said, 35 points is a huge drop. It still has a decent front weapon with impact 3. It doesn't hit quite as hard as the X-34 land speeder, and they're about the same cost now. So I think like if you're just looking for pure like anti-trooper killing firepower, you probably are still going to take the X-34. Now it's faster, it's a little bit tougher, and its anti-armor damage is much better. So like, as an armor counter, I think it's actually pretty decent.
No, the T47 really finds its niche against the tank, I think.
I agree, which seems appropriate.
Yeah,
right?
Tanks and ATRTs, the T47 can handle.
Yeah, it'll wreck ATRTs, and the tank, you're going to be able to get those side arc shots on it pretty easily because it's so fast. So you're going to, it's impact 4 into the side of a tank. That's pretty good.
It's probably going to do a couple damage at least.
Yeah, but we'll see whether it's enough to the weapons still are butt facing, and they're still hard to set up those shots. So we'll see if it's enough. It's definitely enough to move it out of the handicap category.
Yeah, it's like it's a unit you can really take now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And we're in a brave new world of potentially more vehicles, and if that's the case, I think that also indirectly buffs the T47 because it's a decent vehicle hunter. So
I mean, I felt a little bad for my friend who was running it with LTA, and then he just ran into my jammer tauntaun, and it was like, oh, no LTA. Guess what?
Yeah,
no ambush
we'll
for your either to kill my Pathfinders in the open.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. The stuff.
Comms jammer's brutal.
Yeah, you can get away with a lot of nasty stuff, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah, but let's hit the other heavy first. ATST 170 points minus 20.
Oh yeah, this thing is now a new lease on life. It's actually, I think, going to be it's going to be the centerpiece it should have been from Wave 1. I think now with the changes and the pilot.
Yeah, it's got good pilots now. Both of the Empire pilots are really good on this thing. People were already kind of messing around with those even before this points change, and then it's also getting linked targeting array from the Clone Wars release, which is amazing.
Yeah, and you also have pin down. You have multiple weapon systems to use pin down on it, and because face ups are really important now, with strict orders and other effects relying on face up order tokens, and removing those order tokens is just a really solid option. It's really good.
Yeah, I think it's actually really. Yeah, I think it's really interesting now for a variety of reasons. The minus 20 points is really nice, but there's all these other things too that are indirectly helping it. So.
And now with Astromex behind it, it really takes a commitment to kill it.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. You can't just blink it to death anymore.
Yeah, you have to be very deliberate about killing it. You have to like make a decision and just go full force into killing it.
And it's also potentially an interesting meta call now because it has always wrecked vehicles. And now that a lot of vehicles got, drops, and maybe we're going to see more vehicles, the ATST kills them.
And also don't forget that unlike the tank, the ATST has 4 red in melee. So if there are tauntauns in your grill, the ATST can back up and kick them if need be.
Yep.
And if it's already in melee, it can shoot with its main gun and kick with Arsenal too. So there is definitely play there.
Yeah, no, you can't shoot the tauntauns with the main gun because you can't.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. You can shoot something else with the main gun and then kick with your feet.
Yep, exactly. Yep, exactly. Yeah. Thoughts, Jay?
Yep. The same. No, I agree with you guys. Yeah, I mean, you guys said it all. Yeah.
Nothing but the best analysis right here, folks.
Yeah, hard hitting. Jay's nodding off because it's almost 11 at night where he is. So.
Yeah. We should. So we'll try and extra lightning around these last few ATRTs. All of the weapons are now 20 points. So that's a -5 drop for the flamethrower, 10 for the rotary, and 15 for the laser.
Questionable buff to the laser, huge buff to the rotary. That's huge. That means trip rotary lists are saving 30 points now.
Yeah, rotaries are really good with this drop.
I'd really like to see them make another break into the meta again. I always liked ATRTs. I thought they were a good unit, and now they're a great unit. So
yeah, I think this is I think we're going to see a lot of rotaries floating around. I'd agree that the laser cannon it was definitely necessary, but I think it's going to suffer from the same problems it always has. Like if your opponent doesn't bring armor, you're still going to be real sad.
I mean, range 4 crit surge was still decent in its time, but I just don't think it's enough anymore.
No, it's not. And like it doesn't have pierce or anything, so, and it's only 3 dice. So like if you're shooting something like a tank, which there's now going to be 3 of in a few months, you know, like sure you might get 3 impact hits through, but like if your opponent saves 1 or 2 of those,
yeah, but I mean, like, think of it this way, right? The rebel stuff has cover 2 from the cover pilot. The tank has red saves. The ATST is still a good target. Other ATRTs are a good target. The AAT has a red save. The Saber has outmaneuver. So
and a red save,
and a red save.
Or does it have a red save?
No, I don't know. Does it have a red save? I don't remember. But the point is, it has outmaneuver and token sharing. So
yeah,
problems.
Yeah, it's right. It's for 75 points, something with 3 dice that is meant to be an armor counter feels like it should be sort of universally an armor counter, and it's really only still great against ATSTs and ATRTs.
Yeah. Then again, it's only 75 points, so
right. It's that's bargain basement, but
yeah, it should take at least a couple of them to kill an AAT, right?
Yeah. All right, rotary we already talked about. That's really very good at that cost. Flamethrower -5. It's great against droids and against other rebels.
Not against Tauntauns.
I don't know. I think it's possible. No, it's not, and I think that's probably why maybe you're just taking the rotary. Yeah, it's bad. It's straight bad against Tauntauns, which like you should anticipate running up against Tauntauns. They're kind of the thing that, like, if you're building a list for a tournament, that's one of the answers you need to have in your list. So yeah, I think of these 3, the rotary is it's clear like anti-Tauntaun choice. So yeah, I think these were all good drops, but I think the rotary is the clear winner here.
Yeah, by a country mile.
Yep. Speeder bikes -15 points down to 75.
that's so good. I think they're going to make a push with snipers being having their distance reduced to range 5. I think speeder bikes are going to be back in style, I think. And
yeah, I don't know about like back in style, but they definitely that's a significant points drop, and they're definitely like helped by the lack of potential lack of snipers now on the table.
Well, and I mean, think about this. I'm going to go back to the mortars again with the shore troopers doing a fire support with bikes and mortars. Kind of good.
Yeah. I don't know about the mortar fire support, but they
dang
still
it,
hit
Kyle. I'm gonna sell you on fire support with mortars. Like I fought for E-webs.
Yep. Hey, don't get me wrong. I love mortars. I just don't think it's critical to fire.
Is this like that Facebook group? This is a weird hill to die on, but okay.
Every hill's a hill for me to die on. I'm just like, yeah, let's do this now.
Here lies Jay Shalansky.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think mortars are amazing. I just think they're plenty amazing without fire support.
Same.
Bikes have always hit like a truck. They've always been fast. They've just been super vulnerable to things like snipers and bombardments. I think they're still vulnerable to things like with big, hard-hitting dice pools like shore troopers and soon clones. Yeah, I think it'd be fun to see them get like a new.
I mean, the big thing that I'm seeing is that triple bikes, went from 270 to 225. Like that's a substantial decrease right there. So
Yeah, you're saving 45 points
yeah,
if
like
you're
is
running
it
triple
man?
bikes.
Now I want to see if I could do like Boba Officer triple bikes for 10 activations or something like that, because that would be.
I bet you.
I bet
I
you
bet you
could.
could.
That would be pretty nasty.
But bikes are also incidentally really good against
Yep.
tauntauns.
They are. They're good against tauntauns
Because
in the initial round. They're bad against them in the pass because tauntauns are throwing 4 red with sharp
right,
1.
yeah, right. They're not gonna, the tauntauns when they're able to attack the bikes are going to do a lot of damage to them, and the bikes are not going to help them clear out tauntauns from your lines. But they have long range and they're fast, so they're going to be able to reach and hit the tauntauns before the tauntauns get dodges in most situations.
So the trick is not to joust with tauntauns. You will lose if you joust with them. You will win, but you won't win. You'll do a lot more damage if you dip in, shoot, dip out, and just try to let your natties, let your 4 hit natural average just come into play there and see if they can whittle the tauntauns down before they hit your lines. You just have to be very careful, and you'll also need a high activation count because you'll need like 10 or 11 because a lot of the triple tauntaun lists are running 10 right now.
Yep. But with 45 points you're saving on triple bikes, maybe you can
it's possible. 45 points is almost an officer. So
yep. All right, exhaust weapons. The Ion, both versions of the Rebel grenade launcher, the Fleet and the Rebel Trooper one, the HH-12 and the Snow Trooper Ion all got -8 points.
They still have problems beyond their exhaust, unfortunately.
Yeah, super necessary. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see if they get taken. Maybe if rotaries are running everywhere, we'll see some HH.
I'm curious about taking a Rebel Ion gun, like a Rebel Trooper Ion gun, just because it's an extra tool against Decas. It's also an extra tool against, I already like Bistan, and so having 2 ion weapons might be decent as well. Because, again, CIS is going to be a thing, and vehicles are going to be a thing, and nothing satisfies me more than an ionized ATST without Astromex to back it up.
Yeah, I think the ions are actually great against the ATST. I think they're questionably good against the tanks just because you have to actually do a wound. And all of the ion weapons still only have impact 1, so there's a good chance they just straight up save out of that.
Bistan's the only exception there because he's got a giant dice pool, so he might actually get a few more crits than like 1. So
right, yep,
he's got 13 dice, so he's pretty close to the 2 average.
Yep. I think I forgot to mention that the Snow Trooper Ion also got a range increase to 3.
Yeah, I saw that. So you can actually use it with their regular guns.
Yeah, I think this is actually pretty amusing because you can move, shoot, and recover.
Yep.
With the snows.
Seems good to me.
Yeah, and if you do that with Palpatine, you can move, shoot, recover, pull the strings, move, shoot, and double ionize something.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's what you do with Palp, right? To make an all-rounder, you bring an Ion Snow for vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know how reliable it is because it's still impact 1, and
I bet
are you really going to push that wound through?
It'd be absolutely killer against Rebel armor though, because all Rebel armor is light. So, it's like
that'd be great against.
It would be an ace against ATRTs, like hands down.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
So with Palpatine players, Ion Snows, add that to your repertoire and go win an event and let us talk about it more because that seems really cool. I don't think that's just a meme. I think that's an actual legit thing. So
I think it's I think amusingly, so it was clearly the worst of these 4 weapons before. I think it's potentially now the best of them.
Right, because it's on a unit that has that free action that makes it just that much more economical.
Yep.
As opposed to say like a Rebel unit.
Rebel veterans. Yep, Rebel veterans got -5 to their heavy upgrade, the CM/0-93.
The C3PO 93.
Yeah.
I've been using it. I mean, it needed it because I think the math was just wrong. At least that was what my understanding was. That was actually like a slight hit to efficiency to get the Mark II in there. That was just what I understood.
Yeah, I mean, people were running VETs either naked or just with a comms tech with uplink. Like they weren't even taking this thing, so it definitely needed. It was like you compare this to like the Stormtrooper T21, which is cheaper and has exactly the same stats.
Yeah, exactly.
On a unit with red saves. So, yeah, I think it was just clearly overcosted, and they fixed it. So,
yeah, I mean,
I think it's perfectly.
It had to be roughly the same as the Stormtrooper T21. It hasn't really. I shouldn't say hasn't really. I've had like 1 or 2 shots with it that have been really like, okay, that's why I brought it. But I really do wish the bonus showed up more often. I mean, maybe the bonus is just access to the heavy weapon coordinate. Like maybe that's where the bonus lies. This is just a way to sort of,
That is it. I mean, it's not going to be like the Short Trooper T21 where you're like, this thing hits like a truck.
Yeah.
I
didn't say it before. The Short Trooper T21 is 1 dice short of an E-Web. It's an E-Web missing a red die. Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
With critical 1 on a unit that doesn't surge.
And you're adding it to 4 black.
Yeah, which is crazy good. Like it's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal gun. Yeah,
it is. It's great. It's yeah. We won't talk about the shores this episode, but we will at some point have a Shore Trooper episode, and we will be singing the praises of the T21.
We got any more?
Sorry, T21.
We got any more on this list? Because dang.
Yeah, there are more things on this list. So let me just list them off, and we can decide which ones we want to talk about.
Okay.
Pathfinder A300 config is now free. Targeting scopes went down by 2 points. Battle meditation went down by 5. Comms jammer went down by 10, and the FD cannon is now range 5.
Pathfinder config should have been free from release, in my opinion.
Agree. I think you probably weren't taking this anyway on them, so it doesn't like meaningfully reduce their cost to field, but getting things for free is nice.
Well, I was, because I liked to be able to shoot at range 4, and I have used the short range config on numerous occasions.
Yeah, I mean, I took it a couple times, but anyway, now it's free.
Yeah, so you can take it all the time.
Free
things are free, and you are recovering anyway because you're Bistan, so why not?
Yep. And well, it doesn't exhaust. So.
Yeah.
Targeting scopes -2. I think this is pretty good on shores, actually.
Yeah, scope shores are now like something to consider.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe they clones too.
Possibly.
I don't know about clones, but shores get a free aim token every turn if you do it right.
You're just paying to enhance third keyword.
Which is yeah, so you're talking about every time they get an aim, they get an extra dice reroll, and they get multiple free aims per game and multiple per turn.
Right. So like every aim that gets passed to this unit is enhanced by 50% essentially.
Yep.
So that's a lot of enhancement.
Yeah, they're I think they're also decent now in Bosk, especially because Stims went up, which was previously something you'd consider in that slot.
Yeah, so now you run 100 scopes instead.
Yeah, 100 scopes. Yep.
And reroll like 3 dice every time you reroll with lying in wait, so you get to reroll 30 dice instead of 20. Makes that 5 crit shot even stronger, or even more likely.
Yeah. Right, and it makes Rampage a lot better too.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Ideally with Rampage,
this dog outside, man.
No, that's all right. It's background ambient. All right, I still don't think you're taking scopes on anything except Shore Troopers and Bosk. Do you guys agree?
Agreed.
No, I think you should take them on clones. I just said that, and you threw it away, Kyle, like you throw all my other ideas away. So screw you, Kyle. You should take them on clones.
You know what, Jay? That was a System 1 response, Jay. Because the last time you just said nothing substantial, so I just assumed like that's what I heard in my brain. I'm just kidding, Jay.
I hope I face you in
Riggedy
Invader
wrecked.
League. I hope I face you in Invader League. I can't wait to take you down with E-webs. It's gonna be
You're gonna
so
run targeting
Are you
scope
gonna
E-webs and get disqualified for an illegal list.
Yeah, and I'm gonna fire support them too, just to ruin your day.
E-webs with fire supported mortars and
Yeah.
somehow targeting scoped clones.
I'm gonna take.
Yep.
Does Obi-Wan have a gear? No, he doesn't. Damn. I was gonna say I'm gonna take targeting scope saber throwing Obi-Wan.
Let's real quick. Why do you think they're particularly good on clones, Jay?
I think before because the cost was a little high, but I think maybe early on here in the first kind of armies that we see with clones, I think putting targeting scopes on them is really just going to help you just maybe cut some of the edge that the other factions have because of the variety of troops and all their abilities, and you're going to be a little bit limited. So any additional rerolls you can get for hits, I think it's going to help on clones in the initial launch of the factions.
That's fair. I think that, points are every clones list is like a Palpatine list where you're like, man, I wish I had 3 more points.
Yeah.
So I think for that reason, it's a little bit of a hard sell for them. They also don't, the reason that they're so good on Shores and Bosk is because both of those units get free aim tokens. Clones don't get free aim tokens. At least not yet. Rex has tactical, but for the moment, there's no way for a clone unit to get an aim token besides that or another clone unit taking an aim action. So I get what you're saying. I don't know. I think 4 points is still a lot to ask for something that may be useful in a list that's so tight on points anyway. But
yeah, I guess I was just with the problem is Z6 is such the Z6 upgrade in particular. I think this would be a good combo because it's 5 points cheaper than the DC-15. And Z6 is such variance monsters, like any additional dice you can get to re-roll on that, I believe is going to help, and just make it that much stronger of a dice of an attack pool. But I don't think that's long-term solution. I'm just thinking more in the short term to just kind of, because you're going to be down activations anyway, so you need to get as many rolls of dice that you can get as when you're attacking, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. All right.
Are you just saying that because you don't want me to yell again? You just
stop! He's already dead.
All right, let's move on to Battle Map Station. -5. Thoughts?
Okay.
I know. Sure. I never really liked this card to begin with. I think it's got some really niche uses. I think it's better to mention that Commanding Presence went to 5 points, and that's specifically good on Leia with Tauntauns. I think that card is amazing.
I agree.
Yeah, I love Commanding Presence.
Now, one of the niche. I do want to. So commanding. That's actually not one that I mentioned in the article, but it's one we should talk about because it is great with Tauntauns and it's only 5 points.
Yeah, it's also great with another upgrade that went to 5 points recently as well. It rhymes with hammer. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about that one in a second. So notably, Commanding Presence also works indirectly with Entourage. Right now, at least by rules as written, there's a weird situation where you can use Commanding Presence to Entourage at range 4, because it just says when issuing orders, you can issue orders at range 4 and Entourage.
I mean, that's kind of dopey, but I could see it. There's a donut. There's a range 3 donut.
Well, right. So what it doesn't say is that you can issue orders at range 3 with Commanding Presence. Oh my lord. So yeah, you cannot use Commanding Presence.
I mean, hot take. That's a really goofy reading of the rule, though technically legal.
Yeah, I mean that clearly seems unintended, but that's at least I believe this actually came up at Gen Con, and that's how they ruled it. And I think
Yeah,
technically that's correct. But it's weird.
it is weird. Definitely weird.
All right. So potentially decent anachronic. I think that I want to talk about battle meditation real quick as it relates specifically to Palpatine. Because you can use shore troopers to basically create like a loop with battle med.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't remember if I've talked about this on a previous cast or not, but essentially, if you have a shore trooper with a mortar with comms relay, you can use battle meditation. Like, for example, on Given Your Anger, which normally only allows an order to be issued to Palpatine. Battle meditation essentially allows you to ignore all the restrictions on the command card and also range restrictions, because it literally just says when you are issuing orders using a command card, you may issue one of those orders to any friendly unit on the battlefield. So, like, Given Your Anger says Palpatine, but you can use battle meditation to make it say whoever you want, which includes, a shore trooper. So you issue the order to the shore trooper. Shore trooper uses a coordinate to issue an order to a mortar. Mortar then uses comms relay to issue an order, or to pass that order to Palpatine.
Now,
and of course, you can do this with multiple.
Now, does this work because the unit that has battle meditation was never actually issued an order? Because other
Correct.
loops,
yeah. So this is different language.
Yeah, other loops were broken by different language.
Yeah. Right. So this is different language than comms relay, which says when you would be issued an order, instead issue an order to a different unit within range 1 to 2. Palpatine never, in this instance, would never have been issued an order by battle meditation. The initial order just goes straight to the shore.
And so it's passing through this loop that is the battle meditation character.
Right, you're putting Palpatine on the end of the loop instead of
which enables you to issue essentially as far as you have coordinates.
Right, so like if you have, just as an example, if you have like 3 shore troopers and 3 mortars, all of which have comms relay, you use battle med to issue the first order to the shore trooper on the end of the chain, and then bump it down the chain all the way to Palpatine, and then you end up with orders on all 3 of your shore troopers and on Palpatine on every turn, including Given Your Anger.
Right. So it's abusive. It's legal, but it's abusive.
Well, I don't know how effective it actually is, because shore troopers are.
Well, you get. I'm fine with it. You get aims, right? You're basically triggering target, and you're triggering target. You're triggering strict. You're also triggering aggressive tactics potentially, and
you're only triggering one.
That's
because
true.
Palpatine only has.
But wasn't he the nominated commander?
Yeah, he was. So if you're using aggressive tactics, you're triggering aggressive tactics. But he only.
So never mind strict, just AT. Like that by itself, like 3 aims and 4 surge tokens, because of well, I guess you don't really use it on Palp, but you know what I mean. And does this include Entourage as well?
Entourage is just separate and apart from this. So, like, in addition to this coordinate chain shenanigan, you can also just issue an order via Entourage.
So, good lord, man! So that means you're gonna get 3 aims. You're gonna get 3 aims and 4 surges, one of which is on your guard, 3 of which is on the shore troopers, and an order on Palpatine on the turn that you play Palpatine's 2-pip or his 1-pip. That is
correct. Yeah,
off the hook, crazy good. And all because of a 5 point, because of battle meditation of a 5 point force power.
Yeah. So the short answer, I think, is I'm not sure. I'm not convinced that's actually good. It's definitely hilarious. I'm not convinced that it's good just because of how expensive short troopers are.
Okay, slow down a second. Slow down just a second. 3 aims and 4 surges does not go in the same sentence as I'm not sure it's actually good. Like, come on.
Well, let me rephrase that. I'm not sure that it's a good idea to have. So I've played around with this a little bit. You are in a list with Palpatine, IRG, 3 shore troopers, and 3 mortars. You're definitely feeling like the lack of stormtrooper meat, if that makes sense. Okay. Because shores are expensive wounds. Warders are not frontline units. And like you also need a medic or two in there because it's a Palpatine list. If you're running aggressive tactics,
you don't need a medic
have
anymore. You got
Steam
surge tokens. No, seriously though.
Well, what if Palpatine gets
okay.
shot?
Well,
Uh,
I don't know, man. Position better,
Yeah,
but you know what I mean. I know.
Well,
I'm
it's easier said than
joshing
done.
you. I know.
Yeah. So my point is, in a Palpatine list, you're still like light on meat, and Palpatine
Yeah,
lists
that's
really
true.
need meat. So I'm not convinced that this is actually
Yeah.
any good, but I want to play around with it because it's so.
I think it's kind of
entertaining.
crazy that you can get that done, like, and have all your meat now has at least one 3-up save in the tank, or one defense surge, defense surge in the tank.
Right, and the IRG have Guardian.
Yeah, and if they don't shoot your shores get to spend that surge on offense.
Right. I mean, so yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I've messed around with this a little bit. I'm not convinced that it's beefy enough as like a like it's a very, from a Palpatine perspective, it's a little bit of an expensive gimmick. Sometimes like you just don't roll any surges, and then what are you doing with all those free surge tokens? Nothing. It's also, Palpatine lists are vulnerable to suppression. This isn't really any different. So I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's fun and amusing.
Yeah. I mean, this is an awesome discussion that we'll have to reiterate sometime, because I'm sure Jay is tearing his hair out because he wants us to stop talking.
Yeah. So let's talk about Comms Jammer, and then we will close this out.
Sure.
Let's close with Comms Jammer.
It's really cheap, and I have a couple of friends who jokingly told me that CIS is no longer a faction thanks to this upgrade. And I don't think that's overstating the case dramatically, but it's pretty strong. We were just hypothesizing about what if a comms jammer Airspeed Er flies over a cis blob. What happens then? All their units have to attack the Airspeed Er, essentially.
Yeah. Right.
So
it's well, and if you give it to a Tauntaun, and the Tauntaun melee is a B1 that does not have a face up, they have to use AI attack, which also means they can't withdraw.
They can't withdraw because AI attack precludes withdrawing, which basically means your Tauntauns are safe until you decide to move them. So it's like an automatic last against CIS core units with Jammer.
I think this is probably still sort of a Tauntaun / Dewback.
Yeah, and those are the ones that use it truly well, because they're like already good units, but this just like makes them even crazier. It's not a.
Well, that's the thing.
We'll go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're taking a unit that's already like, people are already talking about being arguably overtuned, and you're turning it up to
which is what makes it really. I mean, that's what you're looking for ultimately when you build a list, right? You're looking for units that are already amazing, and then you're trying to find those combinations that just push them over the top. That's the kind of stuff you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think this is possibly one of those.
Yeah.
One of those.
I'm already learning how to function on uplink because of this upgrade. However, it might be worth taking uplink specifically for this upgrade, because if your taunts are uplinked and theirs aren't, you have priority, guaranteed essentially that you'll have priority unless they have orders. And you actually know it's not even that. You're guaranteed priority because they won't have orders on the 1-pip turns because they don't have uplink.
Right. So they just have to fish from the back.
You'll probably win that fight, a heads-up fight like that, if you can play your 1-pip with your links. But
so that's assuming you have at least one comms jammer yourself. Otherwise, they can just give it
Correct. So there's an argument for 2 uplinks, 1 jammer versus 2 jammers, 1 uplink. That's a whole discussion going on in Rebel thought leading right now.
Yep.
But anyway, jammer, was unplayable at 15, and it was totally unplayable.
At 15.
Now it's like potentially defining because it's attached to a very overtuned couple of units.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it is like Ion. It's an effect that like directly removes player agency. in a way that feels kind
Yeah.
of powerless.
This
So I
effect
think-
just happens,
I think
and you
we'll
can't
see,
stop
but
it short of killing the Tauntauns.
Right, and it's not like it
Nope.
even exhausts. You know, like that'd be one thing if
It is
you had to
always
exhaust
on.
it to like pick up an order token. Yeah. But you know, so we'll see. I think it's possibly one of those things, kind of like Ion, that either it's not any good or it's too good. But we'll see how this turns out. I could see this being very frustrating for droid players, and also interestingly, obviously we've talked a lot about short troopers and how great they are, but this is a excellent counter to like a short trooper gun line, because you can't do the comms relay coordinate shenanigan to get them all orders
Right.
and aim tokens.
It just totally messes that up. Like, it just breaks the chain utterly.
Yep.
So it means your opponent has to bring some other tech, which, you know, it's nice, right? Because that means there's actually counterplay to the coordinate shenanigans that are going on. Like, if you get your Tauntauns in there, you know, not only were they good against gun lines generally, but they're also going to mess it up even further, because they can basically shut down the tech that you brought that makes your list run.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because you know, Tauntauns are a gun line counter, and this is a coordinate counter, so it kind of takes a counter and turns it into a hardware
Right.
counter.
Well, I mean, is the ultimate lesson here that you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket? Like, is that possible? Because I've been practicing with 2 Tauntauns deliberately, because I don't want my game to end when my Tauntauns die because of my screw ups.
I think that's a important lesson generally. I think like separatists are going to have a hard time doing that, at least as it relates to this, because you're essentially obligated to field like 5 to 6 B1s, and I think that's going to be the case for a long time. And they very much depend on the whole faction depends on having face-up orders. So I think that's sort of generally true. I think with respect to this upgrade specifically, that's going to be very difficult for separatists. But yeah, I guess we'll see.
Other than that, jammer good. Play it if you have creature troopers, possibly on an ATRT. Can't recommend it on a speeder bike; it's just too fragile. Speeder bikes are now, I think, a horde unit. Like, you take them in groups of 3 and just run them at your opponent and do as much damage as possible.
Yep. Agree. All right, Jay, we will cut that off at that comms jammer, even though there's
even more stuff.
We could have done this.
We basically ended up doing like 2 episodes in one.
Yeah, this was a 2.5 hour long episode.
Well, I'm sure our commuters will be extremely thrilled that we talked for this long. I mean, in all seriousness,
episodes, so
45 minutes was just not their speed. They wanted us to go on for about this long. I totally dig that too.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's our deep probing thoughts about the state of the post points changes meta, and that's not even like the half of it. There's so much there.
Yep, it's a whole new world.
Yep.
Maybe he fell asleep. He's got that that bird with the water in it on his desk that's like hitting the spacebar button.
Yep. I've just completely checked out. No, I think you guys are right. There's just so much, right? Like, I think this is something, like, you know, Kyle, you said it's a whole new world, but I really don't even think that's, like, I think that's true. I think these point changes are just going to shake everything up, and then all the new units and then the new factions. I don't, you know, for us that pontificate about what the future holds, I think it's very hard to even see it right now because of how unstable, in a good way, everything is.
What did he say? Always in motion is the future.
Yep.
I think that's our episode title.
I think we may have used it, unfortunately.
I'm sure we can find another Yoda quote.
So certain are you might be a different one, but I don't know. Anyway, we can speculate about those things off the air. Thank you, Jay, for being such a sport and staying up this late.
Sure. Anything for you guys.
All right.
We love you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's close.
That was fun.
Yep. All right. Well, let's land this plane. We are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm David.
And I'm Jay.
And we will see you next week.
Join us next week for another episode of The Notorious Scoundrels.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production.